Hello, my name is Diane, and I'm filming this video for the second time because the audio was not good the first time, and I just couldn't put you through that. So hopefully it's better now, and if it's not, I'm sorry. But today I want to talk about books coming out in June. It's obviously already June, so some of these books are already out. 2 of them came out last week, 2 of them are coming out today, June 9th, and the rest of them will be out pretty soon. Let's just get into it with the books that came out on June 2nd. We have The Unicorn Hunters by Catherine Arden. This book follows a main character called Anne, who France invaded her home when she was a child, and now she is an adult. And France is planning to make her marry their king to solidify their claims on her lands. And she does not want to give up being the Duchess and having control over her own lands and giving them up to France entirely. So she plans to marry secretly to the King of France's rival. Unfortunately, the royal courts use people who have divination magic to spy on their enemies or just people they're keeping tabs on, such as perhaps Anne, to make sure she's not getting secretly married and ruining all their plans. So to get around this and try and keep this marriage a secret, she plans to go to this forest where a unicorn is occasionally sighted, and the forest itself is hostile towards divination magic, so if anyone is trying to spy on her, the forest will hopefully prevent them from doing so. So she arranges this unicorn hunt with France to pretend that she's going along with them and playing nice, and instead she plans on using this time to secretly marry someone else. I don't think I've ever read a book with a unicorn in it, so that should be interesting. If we actually see the unicorn, I don't know that we will, but I feel like we will. And I like books with political scheming like this, and magical forests are always a good, dangerous time. Then on June 4th, The Secret Library by Amanda James came out. This follows Lucy, who her grandmother dies and leaves her library, and it's a big, beautiful library, and there is a box of unfinished manuscripts, and her grandmother's last wish for her was to finish these manuscripts. And Lucy has some sort of magical connection to stories. I'm not really sure specifically what it entails, but it's a magical realism story, so she has some sort of magical connection to stories and the people in them that will certainly come into play as she is making her way through these manuscripts and finishing them for her grandmother. Coming out today, June 9th, is Letters from the Last Apothecary by Bita Bazadi. This follows Josie, who has recently lost her job, and she goes into this apothecary, and they end up offering her a job. Unfortunately, there is an anti-magic sentiment that's rising in the city as industrialization takes place, and the apothecary is expected to be closed in the next 6 months. Josie makes it her mission to keep this from happening. She's also applying to study magic at a university, which is not something women typically are allowed to do. So she's working very hard on a couple very important things. Meanwhile, the apothecarist Reed, who works at this shop as well, does not like her. She's a little too optimistic, a little too headstrong for him, and she in turn finds him to be very uptight and unpleasant. Nothing like the sensitive scholar that she's exchanging letters with, someone else who's also trying to get into this university to study magic. Unknown to Josie, though, Reed is the same person that she is exchanging letters with, so in their real lives, when they're seeing each other in person, they don't get along, they don't like each other, but in their letters, they are developing a bond and feelings for one another. And either way, they're both working towards similar goals and have to work together in this apothecary shop and hopefully save it from being shut down. Also coming out on June 9th is The Reimagining of Thornwood House by Jilly Johnson. This follows Evelyn, who is a land witch, and she deals with natural disasters, but she would like a quieter, safer life for herself and her adopted daughter Ruby. So they are given the chance to become caretakers of Thornwood House, a sentient home that is the magical heart of a village. However, when they arrive at the address, they found that the house has wandered off. The house is a bit grumpy, very hesitant to let them inside, and they have to cautiously form a bond with this house and grow trust between it. And we see them bond with the home as well as the people in the village and discover that there is something going on in the forest around this area, and Evelyn is going to have to use her powers to resolve whatever is going on. Coming out next week on June 16th is Kingdom of Waves by Melissa de la Cruz. In this story, a land called Ophir was once invaded by another land of Lakon, and they were defeated and lost to the waves. And in this story, we have two leaders of bands of thieves, separate bands of thieves, and they both discover that there is some sort of lost artifact, some sort of relic that can be found and may restore Ophir to greatness and also elevate their own difficult lives. So they both begin working separately to find this, and they're probably going to fall in love. There's a lot of romance in fantasy books now. It's not something I really look for. It's just something that is everywhere now with the rise of cozy fantasy and romantasy. So we're going to see that in a lot of these coming up. I'm not opposed to it, but these all sound like they have really great plots if you're also not that into romance as the center of a story. Also coming out on June 16th is Queenswood by Kathleen Schwab. This follows two characters. The first is Rhiannon, and she is the daughter of nobility, and she is reaching an age where men are vying for her hand as well as her dowry. But as she sees the people of her father's lands really suffering in order to allow her family to be able to pay for her sister's wedding, she decides she's not really interested in marriage at all and intends to join a convent instead. We also follow Angus, who is the Prince of Fairy, and he has never been interested in finding a wife to have a queen when he becomes king. He would much rather be out in the forest. However, his mother is fading and the forest has begun mourning, and he knows that he needs to finally go and find a wife, so he enters the mortal realm to do so, and they're probably gonna fall in love. But I like that it sounds like he is going into the mortal realm. I feel like a lot of times we see someone entering the Fae realm. Is that true? I don't know. Then on June 23rd, we have Hunt the Everwild by S.E. Kaiser. The story follows our main character, Sai, who is a wizard, and to pay for his magical education, he became indebted to the crown, and now he must do whatever the king bids of him or pay for it with his life. So when the king calls on a hunt for the phoenix in the forest, he knows that this is his chance to win this reward and be able to afford to pay back the crown and be out of debt. However, he can't do this by himself, so he recruits the help of a huntress, Anya, and tells her that he will split the prize with her if they win. He, however, has no intention of actually doing this. He just needs her to help him win. Anya agrees to this, but she is also lying. She has been cursed by a witch and is running out of time before she undergoes some sort of horrific transformation, and she needs to catch the phoenix to bind it to the witch that has cursed her to stop her curse from worsening and transforming her. So both lying to each other, they agree to work together to try and find this phoenix. I'm pretty sure they're going to fall in love, and then one of them is either going to have to make a sacrifice if they catch the phoenix to help the other one, or they're going to have to betray one another. Coming out on June 30th, this is Where the Future Bleeds by Mike Brooks. The story follows Kit, who is a diviner who finds destinies for rich and powerful people. However, she realizes that one of these people did not like the destiny she found for them when an attempt on her life is made and her broker turns up murdered. To prevent anyone else from dying, she gets together a group of friends and they set out to find this person and hopefully put a stop to whatever's going on. Also coming out on June 30th, The River She Became by Emily Varga. This follows Yasima, who is a scholar by day, and she collects and catalogs Fae artifacts for the Empire, but at night she reclaims these artifacts to restore magic to her dying lands, and eventually she finds the key to crossing the river and being able to enter the Fae realm, seeking out a crown of an ancient Fae queen. In this process, she meets a captain who is also seeking this crown, and he needs it to save his family from a horrible fate. So they agree to work together to try and find this crown. They're probably going to fall in love along the way, and then only one of them can have the crown and save their lands, their families, or one another. Or maybe they'll never find it. I feel like that's always a possibility that never happens. What if they just don't? What if they just don't do it? They will. I'm pretty sure they will. And the last book I want to talk about, coming out on June 30th, is All We Have Left by Emily Paxman. The story follows Kayla, and her sister April becomes seriously ill and needs medical attention. However, there are very few hospitals and medical centers left. So they set out to Salt Spring Island, where they know that they can find medical care. However, the island doesn't let just anyone in. She meets a man, Sid, who is running for election on this island, and he knows that his chances of winning the election will be better if he's married, and Kayla knows that marrying this man will give her sister access to medical care. So they agree to have this fake marriage for 2 years, during which time he can hopefully win the election and she will become eligible for citizenship herself, allowing her and her sister to stay on the island. And then at the end of 2 years, they can just get divorced and go their separate ways, both having gotten what they needed from the arrangement. However, they're probably going to fall in love, which will potentially ruin their whole plan once actual feelings get involved. I like fake dating. As far as romance goes, I do think it's an interesting dynamic between characters who just have a mutual benefit from letting other people think that they're together and then seeing them actually get to know each other and going through the motions of a relationship, developing actual feelings in the process. And in this story, there's the added pressure of we need to stay in this place because it's one of the few good places left to live. So anyway, those are all 10 books that I am interested in that come out during June or have already come out in June. Let me know if there's any books in particular that you're looking forward to, whether it's one of these or something else. Otherwise, that's all for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.